Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week's edition of the WrestleWatch Podcast. We're back after 2 weeks here. Hope everybody's had a delightful time these past 2 weeks. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Doug. It is it's that time of year. It's a January New Japan rush of everyone everyone whether they're leaving or not, they're gonna pretend they are.
They're gonna pretend whether they want to or not, I believe
So
is the quote.
yes,
1992.
and that's where we're at right now. This is this is probably the busiest episode we've ever done. Trying to think, just in terms of the amount of talent that we need to talk about. I don't think
Yeah,
it's ever been this big.
I agree with that. Yeah, and it's just much talent. It's as big of amount of talent as the amount of snow that my house is snowed in with right now here in Baltimore.
See, I'm not snowed in, but we had a cold day on Friday where schools were closed,
Uh,
and we just about a couple hours ago we got a message that we're having another one tomorrow, so schools are closed again, just for cold weather.
well, how about we look at New Japan today on the WrestleWatch podcast? It seems like there might be an ongoing exodus of New Japan talent. Is there actually an exodus of New Japan talent? That's a question that we're going to be asking. If there is one, what are the causes? Why is this not happening to other promotions? And then we'll look in America to see what the big majors in the US are doing with signing talent. It seems like that's kind of the destination for many of these people that we're going to be talking about today. So where do you want to start off with first? How about we just look at, is this an exodus or not? Let's just answer that question.
Okay, sure. So let's take a look at some of the big departures. So obviously the rumored ones are. Let's start with the ones that we know for sure.
Yeah,
Evil's gone.
Evil's gone.
And we actually just moments ago, we got the official notification from New Japan themselves that have said that Evil is gone. He has now left the company. So
Yeah, nothing
that's
is
official.
nothing is evil anymore.
Yep. So Evil's gone. On top of that, we have Hiromu, who's rumored to be out the door. David Finlay is rumored to be out the door. Gabe Kidd, rumored to be leaving as well. Naito has already left. Bushi's already left. Clark Connors has been discussed for a bit as well. So I'm trying to think, did I miss anyone?
Sonata is
And Sonata.
yeah, so Sonata's of course already had the statement go out, but his form of the statement said he has been pulled indefinitely from shows. Um, so who knows what that really means, but it came right after he his last appearance he had on his like light bright thing. It said goodbye.
So um so the first question is, is this an exodus? And I'll say this, there's a lot more talent that I feel like are being talked about or are leaving, because usually this happens in January, not
Yeah.
every January, but a good amount of them. We have this weird time where the contracts, because they do a lot of them are on these annual contracts that come due right around Wrestle Kingdom,
Yeah.
and then right after Wrestle Kingdom's over, we have a bunch of people who leave.
Yeah, just
Um,
to stop on that for a second, just to expand on that. It's kind of just the business practice in Japan also.
yeah,
Like the way that they do it with New Japan is it's kind of like the home office meets with the people after New Year's Dash, and before New Beginning in Osaka, just to check in with people if they want to continue with their contracts at the current level. A lot of times what happens is these people, like for example, we saw a few years ago Clark Connors go through this, and Gabe Kidd's been on the radar for a while. David Finley's been on the radar for a while with this for a couple years. They flirt with it a little bit. Evil did this last year, actually. That was the one that he was acting like he was gonna leave forever, and then it was just all like a thing, a gimmick. But the thing is that will happen is if they don't resign immediately, they just get, it's just handshake deal at that point. They get paid at the same rate that they were already being paid until a new contract is signed. That contract then goes until the next January. Just like they're just agreeing on a new rate for their contract. essentially. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I just wanted to interrupt
Yeah,
just to
absolutely.
give a little bit more context because it is a little. Oh, and then Stardom does, I think April is their rollover, which yeah, it's around
Yeah, I'm not.
April, I
I'll
believe.
take your word on it. I'm not exactly sure. I never really listened too much on when Stardom's is, but April would make sense based off of when I think about their recent departures. So
Yeah.
April would make sense. Um, so looking at this though, the first question is this an exodus? And I would say it's an exodus similar to the ones I've had in the past in terms of maybe a little bit larger in size. However, I will say this. They've had some that I think have been more significant in losing top talent. The one that comes to mind, obviously, is that would have been 2016, where they lost AJ, the Good Brothers, Shinsuke Nakamura all at once. And then I think they lost, I feel like they lost someone else that year as well. But that year comes to mind for me. Um, and I bring that year up because I want to discuss about this year as well. Because when 2016 happened and all those people left, a lot of people were dooming. A lot of people were saying this is going to be bad for New Japan because they lost AJ Styles, who was, their top Gaijin talent. They lost Shinsuke Nakamura, who was the leader of Chaos. They lost the Good Brothers, who were like the staple of their tag division for the longest time. So there were three pushed acts. Um, However, when they lost AJ, that allowed them to push Kenny Omega. When they
Yes.
lost Nakamura, that allowed them to cement Okada as the leader of Chaos. When they
Yes.
lost Good Brothers, well, nothing really happened, but they lost Good Brothers too. So my point is that New Japan usually puts themselves in these situations. Oh, you know what? It was Kushida. He left that year too, I think. Um, or maybe the next year. Anyway, New Japan puts themselves in these positions where, or gets put in these positions where they're forced to push people they wouldn't have pushed before. And the company's usually better for it. And I think this is a particular situation where the people we're seeing them lose are people that they've pushed almost out of obligation. Like they feel like they have to push them, but they weren't necessarily people I think they're going to miss. Like Hiromu, I feel like they've done everything they could possibly do with him.
Yeah, I feel like Hiromu's kind of hit his ceiling for them. Although at the same time, it feels like that they didn't. He wanted to go heavyweight last year, famously because he and Naito won the heavyweight tag belts, and then they just kind of didn't do anything with that. They get
I
dropped it to the Bucks, I think, or something.
I've
Like there's
heard,
some weird
and
thing
here's the thing.
happened.
I've heard mixed things. I've heard some people say the New Japan office wanted him to go to heavyweight and he didn't.
Hmm.
So it mixed things. So
Yeah,
I'm not exactly sure what is that, but either way, they've
yeah,
done just about everything they could with him, unless they were gonna genuinely push him as like a major main eventer, which I guess they could have. But I also feel like you take a look at him the last couple of years, he hasn't been exactly putting full effort in. That could be tied to injuries. I mean, the guy did break his neck, and he never really was the same after that.
yeah.
And so I think that he's fine to lose because frankly, he's an example of someone that they kind of pushed out of obligation, and he's probably taken up a spot that could be taken up by someone else. Um, Evil is another prime example. He's one, obviously,
I think Evil's
House of Torture.
interesting. Yeah,
Evil obviously has been bogged down in the House of Torture for what is it? Probably like 6 years now.
yeah. Maybe 2018, 2019. Is that when House of Torture when he left Los Ingobernables? Let me double check.
I feel like that was during COVID. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like those shows were COVID shows or close to it.
2021,
Okay,
actually.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
so like still COVID. It was like those still COVID shows. Um and so 5 years at least.
yeah.
And when we're looking at that, he hasn't had anything really memorable happen in the last 5 years. I mean, if I put it to you right now, tell me your favorite Evil match from the last 5 years. I don't know that I can come up with one.
Is that a thing? Although, an interest. Actually, Aaron Wolf. That's my favorite Evil match of the last 5 years, and it happened this year.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about Evil to me is that the crowds love Evil. the crowds want to cheer Evil, and for some
Yeah,
reason, they don't want to turn him babyface.
they could have done that. That
Yeah,
probably would have been an interesting thing to do, I suppose.
yeah,
But they never
because
did.
yeah, so it's so weird because it kind of reminds me of what's happening um with Death Riders right now in AEW, where you have a leader of the faction is essentially a babyface right now, or a tweener leading kind of faces, and the rest of the faction has not changed their alignment whatsoever.
Yeah,
Um,
they're all different shades. Like
yeah.
Marina is like very much a heel.
Yeah, so somebody in chat, I think it's TC, is saying, I heard it was a money thing because him going to heavy would have sparked a pay increase. I think that's regarding Hiromu.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
like I said, I've heard that, but I've heard I've heard different things. So I'm just gonna chalk it up to I don't know.
yeah, so I think that as far as is this an Exodus or not, I think that when we look at the people that we're discussing here, there's two categories, right? We have the people that are the friends of Naito, right?
Yes,
And then we have the War Dogs, essentially, right? Those are the two categories.
more or less, yeah.
We
Because
don't. I don't.
Friends of Naito are Hiromu, Evil, and then the other one that we didn't talk about was Sonata.
Sonata, yeah, and then the War Dogs are the only other people that we're looking at right now, right? There's
Yeah,
no other talent that are leaving New Japan right now. It's just these two factions of people, which I suppose is two different friend groups or two different. I mean, one of them is majority Gaijin, right? And then the other ones are folks that are pals with Naito.
yeah. Now the Pals with Naito group is interesting because they're all most of them, with the exception of Evil, who I think at this point we're pretty convinced he's going to WWE. Um, the rest of them, we're all pretty sure that they're staying in Japan.
Yeah, we're pretty sure that they're all going to show up in Noah, if
Yeah,
anywhere, because Hiromu said maybe a month ago that he would like to do more dates with Noah this year. Then he posted something a few days ago that was saying something about a secret training session. Sonata, of course, he's buddies with Naito as well, and I think that I mean at his current age, Noah's kind of becoming a retirement home a little bit, and it's not that Sonata can't go anymore, but I feel like that they tried him out as a main eventer in New Japan and it didn't work.
yeah,
Hiromu they never really had as a main eventer, but that's just because he's a light heavyweight and they don't really, book your light heavyweights as main eventers. And then Evil, it seems like he might want to. Well, the rumor is go hang out with his girlfriend.
who I'll be honest, until he left, I didn't realize that they were still together, unless they
I
got
didn't
back
realize
together.
that we're speaking of Io Sky. I was not aware that they were still together either.
Yeah, like I thought that well, listen, maybe they got back together,
Maybe, yeah.
maybe they just kept it quiet. I don't know, but either way,
This is now
that would certainly
relationship
make sense.
watch,
Yeah,
estate watch.
absolutely. So, so based off of that, I think we have looking at those people, the friends of Naito. If they go to Noah, I think that'll be good for Noah. That'll be good for them. They need to get freshened up. That's fine.
Yeah,
Evil goes to WWE. That's fine. I don't think anyone necessarily is going to miss him. Um, the War Dogs, though, I think for the most part are very typical January situations where there's Gaijin talent looking to test the waters, potentially get a pay raise. Maybe David Finley will come back. We'll get a contract notification on him. I feel like that happens every now and
well,
then.
yeah.
Like,
It's with Finley, of course. The last 2 years, the report is that he's been trying to see if he can get an American contract. But the thing is that he would prefer working for AEW of the two,
yes. And
and
I get the impression that AEW is not interested.
it seems like it. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of similar to Evil in the sense that AEW is not interested in Evil whatsoever.
yeah.
So here's the thing. Is WWE offering Finley a contract? They might be,
I think
but
they could, and I think that also Honestly, I think that there's a place for him on the roster right now.
Is it outside of NXT?
Possibly. I think that, I mean, with his age right now, he's in his 30s still. Um, so it's not like he's like some old, guy. He's only 32. So it's not like he's an old guy or anything. He has a good, like, and I think the past year or so, when the crowd's gotten behind him more and he's worked more babyface, that he's produced better matches recently. Um, of course, I don't know how much that matters as much in WWE, but don't worry about that. They love collecting, Bullet Club leaders, and they're gonna lose one this year, one way or another. But I think that honestly, it's not bad if he goes to NXT. I know to say that, but if they have a plan for how long that they would want, if the pitch of like, here's how long we're gonna work with you in NXT, and you're gonna be the main eventer of NXT. I mean, eh, that's not bad.
Well, here's the thing. Would he be the main? I don't know if he would be the main eventer of NXT.
Who is the main eventer of NXT right now? Then, I mean, like it's Ethan Page and Ricky Saints for the men.
Well,
That's it.
I don't. Do I don't. Okay. I don't know that David Finlay is necessarily. This is gonna sound really mean to David Finlay, but I don't know that he wouldn't go the exact same route of like Brian Pillman Jr.
I disagree because I think that Finlay actually has more charisma and he has more skills.
He does. He's
and
talented.
He has more contacts too. It's not just, I mean, his daddy boy's there, but it doesn't sound like he wants to work with him. I mean, yeah, his dad and brother both work at WWE right now.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I suspect that's why he would. I suspect he wouldn't maybe want to have an NXT deal, and why he does prefer AEW, because he knows if he goes to AEW, he's going
He'll
straight
get treated
to,
well.
He's gonna get treated with respect. They respect New Japan, the lineage and the legacy. If he goes to WWE, they're gonna ignore everything he did.
Well, I would
totally
also
understand that.
I would also point out that the style of wrestling is far more in line with what he likes wrestling. Even though he wrestles a little bit heavyweight style, it's closer with AEW. He's like 6 feet tall, so he would show up a little bit heavier against the AEW guys compared to the WWE crowd. Yeah. And I think that if you get the rest of the War Dogs, if they were to want to go to AEW, because, I mean, Gabe Kidd, for example, is another name that's in this milieu. Is somebody
Knockout Brothers. We forgot about them too.
Yeah, we'll get to them, because I think that that's the one that's going to say how I think that they're the ones that show that this is not an exodus per se.
Yeah. Okay.
So with Gabe Kidd, his situation seems to be that he wants to continue working New Japan, but he also likes money, it seems. So that's why he keeps on doing these dates, and AEW likes working with him as well. And we've heard from talent such as Okada and Hiromu recently that the vibe of backstage between doing an AEW show and New Japan show is night and day, in how management interacts with you and appreciates you and works with you. I could see a scenario where the rest of the War Dogs are like, hey, we can get dual contracts and we can keep doing shows in Japan and fly back to Japan, every year. Can you guys give Finlay a contract, please, Tony Khan? And keep the boys together. You have a new faction in AEW with the War Dogs. Maybe you attach them to Death Riders, because their alignment with the Death Riders right now is essentially the same alignment that War Dogs were doing. They did the same turn where War Dogs became faces because Finlay and Gabe Kidd were getting face reactions from the crowd, right? The crowd was starting to get behind them, and then they were like, guess we gotta turn them face now? And that's kind of what happened with Death Riders with Mox. People just started getting behind Mox, and then they were like, I guess they're faces now, and they're gonna feud with Don Callis family? So that's my pitch on that. I would like your thoughts on that, and then we can talk about Knockout Bros.
I suppose. I'll be honest. I I like David Finlay. He's had some great matches. I but they've been few and far between.
Hmm.
Like even less than Jay White. Jay White's great. I love Jay White, but he's also like hit or miss sometimes. And and if Jay and Jay White has been pushed very, very well in AEW,
Oh
but
yeah.
despite his injuries, you know, I also feel like something hasn't completely clicked for him in the company.
I
And
think that also when they tried to push him as a main eventer last year, that it got the injury happened and he was in the middle of the worst part of the Death Rider story. I'm sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you.
no, that it's hard to kind of judge David Finlay kind of working in that same way. I just don't. But I think that's why I don't necessarily think this is a giant exodus for New Japan, is because I think really out of all of them, the only one that I think would hurt would be Gabe Kidd.
Yeah, because I mean, his gimmick has been, I'm New Japan's greatest defender. I'm strong style incarnate.
Yeah.
He's kind of like their Eddie Kingston, and I think that his style is just as kind of divisive for some people.
And he's someone who, when you talk about like, oh, what are they really do with like Hiromu, or what are they going to do with Evil? What are they going to do with these people that are leaving? Or David Finlay, who's been there forever. It's like Gabe Kidd, you absolutely could do a lot more with in New
Yeah,
Japan. And so him leaving, that one would, I as a New Japan viewer, I would say he would be missed.
yeah, and I think that Drilla Maloney, which I don't think that we have covered for this week, with our tracker usage and everything like that, and it doesn't seem like he is really trying to leave New Japan either, as much as the other guys are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's one that he's bulked up a lot, and they're really trying to make him work as a heavyweight.
Yeah, and he's someone I remember when he came in on the Best of the Super Juniors. Is that 2 years ago?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
That was
and
around when War Dogs became a thing, and all those guys joined Bullet Club.
yeah, and I remember in that Best of the Super Juniors, it took him a little while to kind of get accustomed to the New Japan style. I remember a few matches, but by the end of that tournament, he figured it out.
Yeah,
And his style was very unique for the Best of the Super Juniors, and obviously they took to him, and now he's bulking up and gone heavyweight. And I think that he's someone they could absolutely push as well. I don't know that he's necessarily like at that level where he'd be missed if he was gone, but I do think he did. He didn't hit his ceiling.
yeah.
He's not hit his ceiling in New Japan.
So we can chat now about the ones that really put the asterisks on this exodus. I think is Knockout Brothers, where it seems that they're not going to be taking that WWE contract that was offered to them.
Yeah, I mean, I had them as a toss-up.
Yeah,
Well, in terms of like where are they going to go? Or are they going to stay? And I think that I think that they are just. I like the team a lot,
yeah,
and I like them both individually too. I think that there's a lot that you could do with both of them, and I'm happy if I would like them to stay, because I do think uh, they would perhaps get a little lost in WWE right now.
yeah,
Um,
probably, yeah.
yeah, and I just don't know exactly how their presentation would work. I understand why WWE would want them, but I don't know that I see them. I don't know if I see them working. Evil, I think, can work. Evil's going to do fine in WWE. I'm not concerned about that. But I do think Knockout Brothers would. I think it'd be best if they stuck around for a little while in New Japan, at least for another year or so.
Yeah, yeah, I think that they've really been working well there. I think in WWE, especially because they would be sent down to NXT, they might not work as well. I don't think that the gimmicks would work as well. In the States.
It just doesn't seem like it would fit. Yeah, I agree. It's just not. No, I don't. It's like there's certain things that, and that's the thing. It's like there are plenty of fantastic uh, gimmicks and tag teams specifically that I think are awesome. I just don't think would work in the United States. I mean, the astronauts was like a perfect example. I love that tag team. I there was a year, was it probably 2 years ago? Again, they were the best tag team in the world,
Hmm.
and I just don't think that that would translate in the United States. Uh, maybe on AEW, but even that audience, I'm not exactly sure would appreciate them as much.
So it sounds like we might not even have to get to the question. The other question of this is why only New Japan? Because I think the answer to this is because of the personal dynamics of these two groups of people that we're looking at right now.
Hmm. And I want to, and I do emphasize this, that this is something that happens every January, as we said. However, their New Japan is unique in the sense that it's like the largest company in Japan, but it's also not exactly on solid financial foundation in terms of their ticket sales and things like that. They're doing better now, but they've kind of steadied off, but they're not growing. And I think that that's a big difference between them and some of the other companies. Where you take a look at Noah, which has been growing, all Japan has been growing and doing better.
Yeah.
Stardom obviously has been quite miraculous, and Marigold, exists.
Yeah, Marigold's doing okay for what they I mean like they for what they are, they're solid enough.
Yeah, but when you look at you know companies in decline in Japan, it's like New Japan is the big one that's just like really kind of dropped off and hasn't come back.
Yeah.
So and maybe that will happen when, if people move around, maybe it'll be a thing where, all these, high tides will raise all ships. And I think these shakeups in Japan will help.
Yeah. I mean maybe with especially because of the folks that are the friends of Naito, they're a little bit older on the card, and they, especially with like guys like Evil and Sonata, those are the guys that were, and Naito himself, those are guys that were taking up 3 slots in the New Japan Cup and the G1 every year.
Hmm.
And now you have these 3 slots that are opened up for some younger guy to take them, like a
And that's
like
what
a Drilla Maloney.
and that's what they need to do right now. And they already started, because this is the Yota Tsuji era. This is the Aaron Wolf era. And it could potentially be, perhaps once again, the Shota Umino era.
I
You
think
never
it's
know.
starting to work again. I think him and Yuya have something going on there
Yeah,
with their tag gimmick.
yeah. So it's like this is probably what they needed, because they were afraid to kind of go full force on these guys, and now they have no choice.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I think we'll have a better image of what this company is after New Japan Cup.
I will also point out with this regarding the why it's not really happening to other promotions. We were kind of thinking that there might have been something like this to happen to CMLL after a WWE purchase AAA. And this past week or 2 weeks ago, we saw that AEW announced a number of talent are actually on dual contracts. In addition to Hechizero, who we already knew, it was also confirmed that Mascot Rada and Persephone are both on dual contracts between AEW and CMLL. So how do you feel about those names being not they're not leaving CMLL?
Yeah, I think this was smart on AEW's part, because I think, and maybe it's easier to pull this off just because Mexico and the United States, this isn't like United States and Japan where it's completely different time zones. They're generally the same time zones. It's not necessarily a situation where you are, you know, half a world away.
Yeah,
So they can kind of do this a little better. But by doing these dual contracts, it's a situation where CMLL's not losing talent.
yeah.
AEW has access to this talent. They can use them when they need them. And on top of that, CMLL and AEW's schedule works so fluidly with AEW,
Yeah.
because CMLL is obviously on Tuesdays and Fridays, and I think what's the smaller show?
They do
Thursday?
Saturday at Arena Coliseo in Mexico City, and then on Sunday they do another show at Arena Mexico.
Yeah. So
Uh,
Friday's the
and
big
then
one,
there's
and
like
then
Guadalajara, I think also has a Sunday show. It might be Monday, but yeah.
yeah. So generally though,
But
these
it's
are
weekly. It's in the specific locations. Yeah.
yeah, and generally they don't have to worry about Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So they because of that, it works perfect. So if they have talent that wants to pick up a Dynamite booking, and a lot of times, especially if they're like booking Collision or taping Collision on that Wednesday,
Yeah.
it works out so well. It's like and I remember like when AEW launched and they started their partnership with AAA, and I was just like, this makes no sense why you guys are with AAA. Like for some, and granted, I understand they were also at a point where they were kind of contentious with New Japan.
Yeah.
Um, so it made sense in that regard that it's just like they couldn't get in with that group. But now that they did, it just makes so much sense in the world. And these dual contracts make so much sense too, because CMLL doesn't have to worry about getting rated.
Yeah.
AEW doesn't have to worry about uh, doing what happened to New Japan. It doesn't have to worry about basically being a vampire to CMLL and just taking all their talent and just leaving them as a husk.
Yeah.
And it just helps everyone. This is what this strategic partnership should be. CMLL and AEW is like this is what New Japan and AEW could have been
Yeah.
if they maybe tried it a little harder, or if just, but maybe not, because I don't know. As I said, it's not the same dynamic between, because Mexico's got a whole bunch of other things going on. Obviously, cost of living differences in Mexico versus cost of living in Japan,
Yeah.
and it's just different cultures. But it's working. It's definitely working for both companies.
I would also point out that with CMLL, they're getting talent back with a lot more regularity than New Japan are getting it. Not just talking about dual contract people, because there's three talent who are in dual contract with New Japan with AEW. Kevin Knight, Konosuke Takeshita, and Rocky Romero. So they don't really appear much outside of the tournament seasons.
Nope.
In Japan. Meanwhile, the people that are dual contract with AEW and CMLL, they're all CMLL people for now. But I would point out that somebody like Bandito is essentially like the number 2 draw for CMLL right now. He sells out Arena Mexico.
Yeah, Commander's doing well down there too. He gets over really well. And on top of that, and I think you just kind of alluded to this, but AEW is sending people to CMLL a lot more regularly than they ever sent them to New Japan.
Yeah, and like even people that are like Mortos and Hechicero, who is currently out injured, they were getting very over. Hechicero was in CMLL when he was healthy, but the name that is going to happen soon, that's going to really launch us to the stratosphere for CMLL, is the guy that competed against the CMLL talent on Collision this past week. That was a taped Collision from Orlando, and you know who that is. He's who I think should be the next world champ in AEW possibly right now. It's Andrade.
So here's the thing with Andrade. I don't know. See, and full disclosure, I didn't exactly know who you were talking about because I didn't watch Collision yet.
Oh, you're not a Collision cowboy?
I usually am, but I'm a Collision in the background kind of guy, and I just wasn't home yesterday. But here's my thing with Andrade. I think it depends on how secure we are in that Andrade, like, because Andrade's obviously gone through a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it just how comfortable they are
That
with
he's
him
going to
now.
be sticking around and everything like that and working
feel
well with
like
people.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, after everything that's happened, he's probably sticking around. And
I think so.
I assume CMLL's fine with him.
Well, I mean, he wrestled. So on Saturday, to give more context, he wrestled Magnus on Collision from CMLL. Magnus is more of a mid card kind of guy, so it wasn't like he's a good steady hand. He's a good guy to say, hey, we've been thinking about having Andrade come back to Mexico. Who are we going to throw at him? Well, he's not going to be one of our big guys. And Andrade did the Naito gimmick with the match. He wrestled in his shirt. The crowd chanted, "Take your shirt off." He takes his shirt off. The crowd goes wild. It is what they were saying about Soberano Jr., where you're hearing the whooping and hollering of the crowd, and you're hearing all these female voices and tones, and everybody's going wild about Andrade taking the shirt off. Then, of course, you know what he goes off the outside. There's a planted fan that's in the front row that asks for his selfie with him. In the middle of the match, he takes a selfie and then gives her his phone number. Then, of course, this happens during the commercial break. They said, "Take your shirt off," right? And then he's doing the Naito, so you know what that means. He has the rip-off pants.
Of course.
So you know what they chant.
Take your pants off.
Take your pants off. You know what he does?
Takes his pants
He takes his pants off. And it just goes to another level on top. The crowd is behind him so much right now. And they have him, he stated in a promo after the match that he wants to go for the world title. So he's going to have a match on Wednesday with Swerve Strickland. So they're putting him in this tumult of people at the top of the card. And I'm just saying, like, man, he is perfectly positioned right now to do the 2000s Eddie Guerrero. Where it's
So Andrade should win this match against Swerve
I think that he should win it. I think he should win it because number one, they need to, you know, call off these people that are going to be trying to go for the world title. I know that this is WrestleWatch and we talk about free agency usually, but they have right now either they're going to have a 4-way with MJF or they're going to have one person go against MJF. They have to figure out how they're going to get there of it just being one person then, right? So
right.
These guys have to start losing.
Yeah, and yes, I mean, okay, I think this is a wrestling problem in general, at least in American wrestling, where people are just afraid to let people look weak. But
yeah, no, this just happened last night on Saturday Night's Main Event, actually, where Cody and Jacob Fatu, they've been, you know, barking at each other for a little bit, so they finally got a match together. What happens with the match? It's the first match of the show. WWE, you know exactly what happened. Somebody interferes and the match doesn't happen.
Yep. I mean, I remember for the longest time, this would have been like during like the Roman Reigns first major push. They announced and it was when Rusev was like undefeated.
Yeah, Rusev Day, prime Rusev Day.
No, I think before when
Rusev
he was
Day,
like before the tank.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and he was like undefeated still. They announced on a SmackDown, it was Roman Reigns versus Rusev. And I remember everyone saying, like, nobody believed that match was actually going to have an ending, and then it didn't have an ending, and everyone complained about it not having an ending. And then people were saying, well, what did you expect? Do you think they were going to have a clean ending for that? And then other people were like, yes, it should have a clean yeah. So it's one of those things where when you get to the point where people just announce matches and assume it's going to be BS, it's like that's when you have a problem. And I think like AEW, they're just as guilty as this, where sometimes, like, for example, you see Andrade versus Swerve. Regardless of who wins that match, I'm guaranteeing there's going to be something to kind of protect someone, whether it's like a distraction or interference, or it's just not clean, or it'll be a DQ, or it'll be something like that. You're not going to get clean.
Yeah, but like if it's a TV match, it's like, okay, maybe not. But like if it's like
I'm not saying, listen,
if it's like Saturday Night's Main Event, that's different, I think.
Right, and I'm not saying you can never do that stuff. In fact, I'm fine if they do it like, half the time. But I do think that there's good storytelling to be told by just being a loser for a while. We saw it with Jon Moxley recently.
Yeah.
And
I think it could work out for Swerve because, I mean, he's not going to be the one that's going to challenge MJF at Revolution probably.
Right.
So if you can and he has something interesting going on with Hangman where they're friends now, and they're like, it's like they know that they're former rivals, so they respect each other, and they're kind of competing about influence with other talent right now. Well, if Swerve loses, It kind of creates a new, interesting thing to explore. TC in the chat is saying regarding the CMLL contracts, is this proactive or reactive? Are they doing this on their own volition, or has WWE been sniffing around these people? Well, we know that Persephone was somebody that WWE was interested in. Mascara Dorada probably would be because of his age. He's only like 24. Hechicero, I don't believe at all that WWE would be interested.
I think that at this point I think it was reactive because they weren't doing this before AAA.
Exactly.
So it's reactive in that regard. But I think at this point, it probably was a situation where like, oh, this is like good all around. So it just kind of worked out well. Similar to how it was reactive to move their pay-per-views to the afternoon. And ultimately, I hope they realize,
worked.
this is better. We should keep this. But
yeah.
They haven't yet, but I hope they do.
So something that I want to transition on with this is looking at this from a grander perspective, is looking at that right now, there seems to be a lot of indie talent being looked at. So WWE did a tryout a week or so ago. They had LeBron Cazone. They had Starboy Charlie at it. They have a number of other talent that have been indie talent that they're looking at possibly signing. They haven't signed a lot of them, but from the UK tryouts, the Europe tryouts either. But there's still a possibility of this. AEW at the same time has been signing a lot of indie talent. We've had Hyan and Maya World. We've had the possibility of Lena Cross being signed. We're not 100% sure yet on her if she is actually signed. Lacey Lane, who formerly was with WWE, went indie, now signed to AEW. And then we also have, just this past week, Alec Price and Jordan Oliver, who been working...
GCW stalwarts?
Yes, they've been working Northeast Indies especially.
Don't forget the real deal, Zeta Steel.
Yes, Real Zeta Steel, who was WWE ID, said, "I don't want to re-sign that deal. I want to sign with AEW. They're gonna actually feature me, and make me grow." I have a theory on what's going on here, but do you feel like that this is proactive or reactive by AEW, or do you think it's something else going on?
I think that I'll say this. I think that AEW and WWE are both just kind of doing what they've always been doing. I mean, WWE will do these tryouts every now and then, and I'll be honest, the people that they've been bringing into these tryouts lately have not exactly been like must-sign talent. And WWE and AEW, on the other hand, they're signing more than they have in the past. I think that it could be a thing where hey, how many indie talent can we get for a Jericho?
Yeah.
Or how many indie talent can we get for a Powerhouse Hobbs? I think that could be what's going on, is that, hey, we have some salary cap room.
Yeah.
We've got some cap space. And so we're going to pick up some prospects and see how it goes, which I think is smart, because at this point, there's not really a big name to throw a bunch of money at. There's not some big free agent. So why not just pick up a whole bunch of lifeboats and see if one of them really floats to the top?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest free agents that they could be getting their hands on are potential free agents. Like thinking about who's on the tracker right now. I mean, you have AJ Styles or Shinsuke Nakamura, where I don't think that they have to sign them for a lot of money if they were interested in coming over to the AEW or New Japan again side. And then I guess Bayley is the other big name, but that's not until at the end of this year.
Yeah, like she's one that I could see making the jump. It would make all the sense in the world.
And around that time, they're going to have to re-sign Mercedes also.
Right, and I'm sure that they're going to throw money at her. Like that's the thing with Mercedes. People are saying like, well, now she got this out of her system, she'll go back, and it's like, she's gonna demand more money than they turned down last time.
Yeah, she's now the world breaker. She's the one that. So this is I know that we discussed about this with the Thez Flair Award for Wrestling Observer. You are very vehement that the no-brainer choice is Mystico.
Yes.
Right? And my choice, I countered by saying I think that I said possibly Hangman, I think. But I think that I would argue here's the real argument. Here's the real comparison point for me is Mercedes Moné. I think says more than Mystico as the potential draw because you have people flying her out throughout the world and fronting this money on the belief that it's going to be made back because you've booked Mercedes.
I think that she's a very good candidate.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think I would still vote Mystico just based off of the insane drawing ability that he has demonstrated. I mean, right now, 2026, he's the front runner for 2026 as well, based
easily,
off of sellouts. But I think Mercedes is a very strong candidate. I would put Mercedes up there. I think you can make the same argument for Saya Kamatani. But yeah, I think Mercedes is a strong one.
Yeah, my top three, because so last year the top three on the award ballot, and this is the one that is for the combination of everything, being both important and influential this year in a positive manner for a business perspective, combining both box office impact as well as strong match quality in worked matches. Last year the top three were Cody Rhodes, Will Ospreay, Bryan Danielson. My ballot is going to be Adam Page, Saya Kamatani, and then Mercedes Moné. You know, I might flip those around, but yeah.
It's interesting because if you take a look at the three from last year, I don't think any of those top three are going to be in the top three this year.
Well, there's no way Bryan Danielson will be.
Exactly.
Ospreay is going to have a lot of people forget that he exists.
Yeah.
And then Cody, Cody got outshined by John Cena's drawing ability, and match quality possibly. On the back end of 2025, when John Cena went face again, he actually started having good matches.
Yeah. If Cena, if there's a WWE talent that you would recommend for Flair Thesz, it's probably going to be him.
Yeah.
Maybe
you could argue Punk, maybe
Punk
or Gunther.
Maybe Gunther. Yeah, I was going to say Gunther. But that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then my most outstanding is a silly season. I think it's Sari, Kenny Omega, and then Zack Sabre Jr. It's my top three.
I think mine would be a combination of Takeshita, Sari, and maybe like Kyle Fletcher.
Yeah. Takeshita is a strong choice there too. But same thing. Last year, the top three were Ospreay, Danielson, Takeshita, and it's like, well, one of those three is going to come back.
Yeah.
Because I think that Ospreay had a good year, but people forget that he had a good year. But yeah, no. So regarding the contract signings, I have a theory of what's actually going on here. Okay.
Okay.
And I want to throw this out to you. I think that AEW or Tony Khan are changing the business model of Ring of Honor. Okay, so let me take you through this. Okay,
I'm listening.
Okay, so we recently saw the announcement of a number of Global Wars shows. Did you see this?
Yes.
So they have one with Metroplex Wrestling, which is Athena's promotion, out of the Dallas area. That was supposed to happen this past weekend, but then the storms happened, so it got postponed for this coming weekend instead. So that will be the first Global Wars show for Ring of Honor. It'll be their first special or pay-per-view, depending on how you look at it, of the year, right? Last year, they did a Global Wars joining to Grand Slam Australia, right? So that's January, and then that's February. Then they already have announced for March, Global Wars with, not My Little Pony, but Maple Leaf Pro, MLP. They'll do a 2-night Maple Leaf Pro show. One night will be with Ring of Honor. The other night will be a Maple Leaf Pro show on its own. Then April comes. April usually is Supercard of Honor, right? Historically, it's been attached to Mania weekend. Last year, they moved it off. Originally, it was supposed to be May 2nd in Atlantic City, and then they just delayed it because of ticket sales or something like that. They pushed it to being part of All In's package, and then they made it up to the region for Atlantic City by having Death Before Dishonor in Philadelphia instead. Okay, so possibility April slotted in there. May, nothing yet, but they had the ROH X Dean show attached to Double or Nothing last year.
Yes,
Okay.
they did.
So now we've gotten to May and we have a show every month. June. Last year they had Grand Slam Mexico. What did they do? Global Wars with CMLL.
Mm-hmm.
July. Every single year that TK has had ROH in July, they have had a pay-per-view. Every year. Okay? What is happening this year in July in America with the partner promotion?
Well, Forbidden Door, but also G1.
G1 Climax in Chicago. So if you
Yes.
want to do a partner show that doesn't outshine a big event that New Japan is doing, and there is a rumor about Forbidden Door possibly being at Arena Mexico this year, why not have it be ROH Global Wars with New Japan as a second show rather than Forbidden Door being a second show? Then G1 Climax is the top show that weekend.
Yeah. This makes sense to me. And honestly,
And
here's
I
the other.
I got another layer for you.
Sure.
August. August is All In, right?
Correct.
You know what got announced for All In weekend this year, happening at Wembley Arena?
Rev Pro.
RevPro. Do you think RevPro can sell out at Wembley Arena? Possibly. But do you know what could do better than just that?
I remember when Progress attempted.
Yeah. But you know what would be even better than just RevPro doing their own show?
Ring of Honor Global Wars.
Ring of Honor Global Wars.
But let's be honest, they'll probably do two shows. They'll probably do their anniversary show and then they'll do that.
I think that they're probably going to announce on Saturday that there's going to be a Global War show, and then on Sunday it's going to be that. So my theory here is that they're loading up every month with a Ring of Honor show, and they're transitioning Ring of Honor into being best, like their partner promotion, super indie again.
I like this idea, and I would like it even more if they completely got rid of the weekly TV as well.
I would as well.
Just did this.
Yeah. And so that's why I think that they're signing all these talent, partially is because a lot of these guys are indie wrestlers that aren't going to be on AEW TV every week, right? Mm-hmm. Like Alec Price and Jordan Oliver, they're good wrestlers. They're not people that are going to be mainstays on TV yet, though, right?
No,
High-End and Meyer World, they're good wrestlers, but they're not mainstays yet.
They're probably going to end it's going to be what we expect they're going to be. They're going to be getting contracts. They're going to get guaranteed money.
Yeah.
But they'll probably still pick up a lot of indie dates.
Exactly. Yeah. So why allow them to get a contract with WWE when you just can essentially AEW ID them, and then they have the freedom. They have a guaranteed rate that's going to be paid better than WWE was paying them, with no strings attached, other than, hey, if we ask you to fly in for a show, you got to drop your indie date.
And not only that, I think that a lot of people really underestimate the fact that AEW doesn't have nearly the overhead that WWE does.
Correct.
So because of that, they can spend a little bit more money, or a little bit higher percentage, a lot higher percentage of their revenue on talent.
I mean, like, think about it. Like, I mean, you know, for the entry level rate, if they paid this person, I don't know, like $50K, $60K, $100K, anything in that range, it's a lot of money for one of these indie wrestlers, right?
Yeah.
But
like
then
if you're Alec Price and you get $100K a year,
mm-hmm.
And you are and then you could also just work indies on top of it.
Yeah.
But also have the prestige of being an AEW talent.
Yeah.
It'd be like what the NXT UK deals were if they were actually like
actually good money.
Yeah.
And if they actually paid the people the money that they owed them.
Yeah.
Some people still are due their money from NXT UK.
Yeah, it's you know, is Emi Sakura still employed by the company?
By AEW?
Yeah.
Yeah, she is.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's she'd be another example.
She's an ambassador, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, she'd be an example of that, where she'll come in every now and then, but she's been an employee and she could work her own shows and do stuff on her own, and she does.
Yeah.
And like that's a prime example of that. But that's on the other end. That's someone who's like a legendary wrestler who's been around forever. But it could work both ways.
I mean, Billy Gunn just had that happen. They were just like,
Billy Gunn.
They were like, oh, we got the snowstorm stuff. Crap. Who do we got? Billy, do you want to wrestle? And he's like, yeah, sure. I can work with Takasha and Fletcher. he got a decent match out of it too. Like it wasn't, a world breaker. It's Billy Gunn, but like he worked well with the two guys. I mean, how could you not either?
Right.
But that was on the Collision also. You miss a lot on Collision.
Apparently.
You gotta be a cowboy again, buddy. And then we have a comment here from Misfit Wrestling Podcast. Hi, how you doing there? Not sure if you have mentioned it, but New Japan put out an hour ago announced Evil was leaving at the end of the month. Yep. We talked about that at the top of our program, and that gives us a good transition point to look at the hot, fresh, straight out of the oven WrestleWatch Pro Wrestling Free Agency Tracker. I believe that I sent you the file as well there, Doug. So if you wanted to join me in alternating the tiers, because we got a lot of names now. We got a lot of names. So
scroll back up. Okay.
So I'll start with the certain people. We have Adam Priest, and we didn't even talk about this guy this entire podcast.
Well,
somehow.
that's why we wait until now. Now's the time to talk.
Now's the time to talk about Powerhouse Will Hobbs and Evil, who we talked about earlier. But Powerhouse Hobbs, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So here's an example of someone making the jump over to WWE after AEW raises the amount of money.
Yeah.
A lot of times I frown on people who will jump to WWE for less money.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I am willing to give Mr. Hobbs, Mr. Royce Keys, as he is potentially going to be called.
I hope not.
I'm going to give him a pass on this. And I think, you know what? He's been in AEW since the pandemic.
5 years, yeah.
Yeah, 5 years. And he's more or less in the exact same spot.
Yeah, like he when during the Jacksonville era, they had him in that what I called the tweener quasi stable, where it was Mox and Darby and him and Lance Archer, and they were all just like in this circle, and Eddie Kingston and the Lucha Bros, and they were all just like feuding with each other and teaming with each other, and it was a good position for him. But has they tried him out last year to see if he can get back to that level of being almost main eventer, and didn't really catch. It felt like
he's mid to upper mid, and he's been mid to upper mid basically since Team Taz.
Yeah, after he lost the TNT title, he has kind of floundered within AEW. Not because he's not a skilled professional or anything like that. It just the card has changed, the roster's changed a lot around him, and he didn't catch.
And on top of that, when you look at WWE, they're in a situation where they're, for good reason, getting constantly berated and criticized for their failure to push black talent.
Yes.
They have Powerhouse Hobbs here, who's basically a finished product, who's a well-known entity. People know who he is. He's a good worker.
Yes.
And on top of that, he's available. I understand why he would maybe want to make this jump, especially if he thinks that he could get a major push. And based off what I'm hearing, he's going to go straight to the main roster.
Yep, straight to main roster, no NXT stuff.
That's a big endorsement on their part. So for these reasons, I think he is an example of one where I don't think this is a bad move.
Oh, no.
And I do not fault him. This is not geek behavior. This is smart behavior. So, this is not Mariah May. Main eventer in AEW taking money to go work in NXT.
Yeah, no, this is Ethan Page.
Yes. No, he is. This is a smart move on his part, and I think that it's the right move.
And I would also add to this is that Hobbs is like 34, so there's no spring chicken. Right?
No, right.
But at the same time, he is compared to the main event of WWE right now, right?
Yes.
And so if he can position himself right on the cutting edge of, we're going to have to start transitioning from these older guys, he's right there. He's a finished product, right? He is meat, He's going to get over so quickly with that crowd, right?
Yeah.
And so if he can position himself just right, he has good potential. I think here's my hot take, and I think that some people might agree with me and might disagree with me. That's why I think it's a hot take. But my hot take is I think he has. I'm not saying that I think he will be a world champion in the next 3 years. I think that he has a higher chance of being a world champion in the next 3 years in WWE than he had in AEW.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will happily make a bet that within the next 3 years he will be a world champion.
I think that is very possible. And like even if we expanded it to being like in AEW, like he'll be world champ or international champion. Nah. I think that he has a higher chance still in WWE of being one of the top 2 champs.
Yeah, I agree.
If we have Misfit Wrestling with another comment here saying Hobbs is being brought in for the Rumble according to Fightful. Wow. He got his visa.
Well, listen, I think that that's a perfectly fine way to listen. That's how they debut all their top people. They love debuting people in the Rumble, and I think that's a good spot for him.
I think I think it could possibly backfire because the Rumble is in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, except I feel like anyone who's like watching the Royal Rumble probably doesn't care at this point.
Well, I think the people at home will be like, "Oh, wow, it's Hobbs. We love him." As long as he gets a good meat from the crowd, a good halal meat, or kosher. I forget what the word is for Muslim, but you know what I meant with that. Like if he gets a good meat chant out of them, he'll get over. But I don't think the crowd's gonna know who he is necessarily.
Hobbs, stay royal, don't rumble.
And then Evil was the other one that we have certain. Yeah, I think that he's out at New Japan, and he's seems like, according to Dave Meltzer, and I think Fightful also, it seems very likely that he's going to be heading to WWE, which is a crazy world we live in, that Evil is getting signed to an American promotion.
Yep. All right. So now we'll go through we already talked about a lot of these on the likely column, but I think we'll run through them. We have Chris Jericho, Bushi, Evil, Kieran Gray, Lena Cross, Leon Slater, Sonata, Steve Borden Jr., and Tetsuya Naito.
Yeah, so I think that we have 2 ones that we're going to pit stop here, or 3 ones. Chris Jericho's still on the AEW roster page, so until he's off, I don't think we go up to certain yet.
No, I think it's fine where he's at. Maybe he might get that last minute contract. I don't think he will, so that's why he's at likely. So we'll leave him there.
Kieran Gray is another one of these prospects that AEW has been kind of working with Steve Borden Jr. They're both being trained by Darby Allin right now. They have them appearing on dark slots before AEW shows.
You know what? And I think that will probably continue for a while. I mean, we'll see what happens with him. He was one that I was always kind of like questioned whether or not he's above the Brian Pillman Jr. line. But
I think right now, with how many indie talent are being laser-eyed by AEW and WWE, this feels like the moment to be like putting a bunch of these indie talent on our tracker.
Yeah. And it's saying I'm fine with that, and I could see him eventually getting signed.
And I think the big name of that list of things happening is Leon Slater.
Yes.
Where so the story went initially. This was how it was originally, like this is like the chronology, the historiography of this was originally it was reported that Leon Slater that WWE asked to pull Leon Slater from TNA. That was how it originally was reported.
Yes.
They wanted to use him for house shows and for a SmackDown at Wembley Arena. Then it came out that it was visa issues, and other talent had legitimate visa issues, and now we're being told that it is legitimately that Leon Slater had visa issues, and that's why he couldn't travel to the US and got pulled from the AMC Premiere and Genesis pay-per-views. And it just so happened at the same time that WWE was in the UK. Either way of which one's true, WWE really wanted to use him. I think that shows to me that, and his contract is up by the end of the year. I think that you said certain even. Was where you were at.
Yeah. Let me look at my notes. Leon Slater. Yep, I have him at certain.
Yeah, like I think that like I mean I would say certain, but like I just want to give it some time, because he's still contracted to TNA. Something could happen at the end of that contract, maybe a good offer that he couldn't refuse from another promotion, but like it's as sure can be without being sure right now.
Yeah, I would agree.
Um and then now we go down to our probable tier. And what do you think? Do you think Chris Jericho shows up at the Rumble?
Yes.
I gotta say no. Until I see him off the roster page for AEW, I don't believe it. I'm not gonna say for sure.
I'm not like banking on it. Hobbs makes all the sense in the world to debut him at the Rumble, but
what if Evil debuts at the Rumble? Ooh. Evil in Saudi Arabia? It's never happened.
God.
Probably.
This is going to be such an awful show.
As long as the stadium exists, it's going to be a great show. Probable, we have Danhausen, Michael Oku, and Killer Kelly newly added to our tracker. Do you have thoughts about Killer Kelly? You're a lot more certain about Killer Kelly showing up somewhere else.
Okay, so you don't put any stock at all in her saying, like, you'll see me on TV soon. Very soon.
I don't know. Who knows?
Maybe she's doing a reality show.
Maybe she'll be on NWA. They have that CWC deal.
Yes, it's true. I don't know. I feel like Killer Kelly is someone that I've always really liked her.
Yeah.
I think that I think the way that AEW presents itself now and it presents women now, and the way that Marina has gotten over, I think that Killer Kelly would fit in perfectly there. Okay. I think that there's definitely a role there. For the same reason I've also said that, I think that they should kick the tires on Shayna Baszler.
I agree as well.
Yeah, so I think that she would fit more so than any time in AEW's history, because they've had opportunities to bring her in. I mean, I remember there were people clamoring that they should bring her in and put her in Team Taz. So I think now is the time. So I think it's happening. I would go up to likely, but we're going to have her at probable, obviously.
Yeah, I think just because she's only just ended her time in TNA, we haven't gotten any reports yet saying definitely, there's been no name of a company yet,
no.
in any reports. I think that everybody that we have in likely, essentially we have a name of a company, and I don't feel like that we have that with Danhausen, sure, but I don't feel like we have that with Killer Kelly right now.
Yep. And then
and also for that matter, I believe that she's to get back to Date Watch. I believe that she's involved with Myron Reed of the Rascals.
She is married, I believe. To him.
Married, yeah. So Rascals used to be on our tracker as of last week. Once we get to the end of this, we'll check on all the people that we took off the tracker this past week. But yeah, Myron Reed is one of the Rascals that's staying with AEW, which is the weird way of phrasing that. So down in toss-up, we got a lot of people in toss-up, a lot of people that we're not 100% sure on which way they're going. We have the British wrestler Riho, we have Britt Baker, Private Party, Isla Dawn, Dakota Kai, and now we have a few unbound fellows. We have Clark Connors, David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, and Hiromu Takahashi. We kind of have essentially your likely tier is the Friends of Naito, and your toss-ups are your War Dogs.
Yeah, basically. I feel like we talked about all the people on here that we need to add. I don't know if there's anything we need to add on these.
And we have somebody...
Isla Dawn was booked on AEW again.
Yes.
But
that was part of the Orlando booking though, which like I kind of could put an asterisk on it because it's Orlando and there was the storm that came in, so maybe plans changed a little bit more than they thought they would.
Yeah, I think I said this on the Discord, but I think from now on, anytime the show is in Orlando, I'm not gonna like look into who's backstage anymore. It's just like, you know what, that's
you don't think Gallus is getting signed? Joe Coffey's not going to get signed.
Listen, I
Marty Scurll.
hope. Listen, I hope that they do, and then
Well, Marty wasn't backstage, but
yeah,
um,
I don't need Marty Skrull. Here's the thing. I also don't necessarily. I understand the Hangman taking a photo with Skrull is a
yeah, it's
issue,
just. I mean,
but
I don't know if it's
I,
really an issue per
I
se.
will. And here's the thing. I will also say this. I think it'd be a bigger issue if Hangman was the one taking the photo and posting it on his social
Yes,
media. I
yes,
think the other way around, all that says to me is that Hangman was nice enough to take a selfie with the guy that he'd known for years.
yeah.
I think I will let him go on that. All right. So going on to toss up, I don't have anyone else to really talk about there. So we can go on to possible. Um, we got Man Like DeReese, Ninja Mac, Mike Santana, Knockout Brothers, Sari, the Iconics, LeBron Cazone, Starboy Charlie, and Steve Macklin.
Yeah, so this one's we have some new characters in the possible tier. The Iconics and Steve Macklin. Well, so they're both related to each other in this regard. The Iconics have left TNA. They dropped the Knockout Tag titles. There seems to be interest in them from both WWE and AEW, but I don't think that we're sure enough yet on which way the wind's blowing with those two. Steve Macklin was in the Feast or Famine match, where he has one of the briefcases, which either has a title shot or it has a "you're fired" shot, a pink slip in it. And he is the only one that has one of the briefcases from that match that has not been announced as re-signing with TNA. Of course, Steve Macklin is with Date Watch back online here, Relationship Watch. He is an item with Deanna Prazo.
Yes, I believe they're also married.
I believe also, yes. I like keeping it vague just in case I'm wrong.
You never know. You're right. All right. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about Steve Macklin. Because here's the thing with him. I think possible is correct, just because I think there is obviously a lot of smoke that he
Yeah.
may be wrapping up, but I just don't know that I see a whole lot of interest from maybe AEW will throw him a bone, because I mean they will give a lot of people a shot.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know that he's necessarily gonna have a high ceiling in AEW, but we could see.
I mean, honestly, him as like a depth guy for a stable is good. I think that I think if what I was saying about Ring of Honor changing their business strategy, I think that he would be a good addition for that.
Maybe a Josh Alexander style level.
I think exactly where Josh Alexander is right now, which I think that Josh is going to get a level up once whatever happens with Takeshita in Don Callis family figures itself out. Same with Andrade. Andrade is going to be like Ming and Eventer level once that gets figured out. And then the other two that I wanted to hit on was LeBron Cazone and Starboy Charlie. Those two were names that were at the WWE tryout. I think that those are the two most notable names from that tryout.
Yeah, they're possible. And then obviously we have the Iconics. I mean they're leaving TNA apparently, and
Yes.
I suppose they could be back in WWE. I know they're friendly with Harley Cameron, so maybe Harley's angling to get them in.
Yeah.
I could see either option. We'll see.
Yeah, we have unlikely. We have three names and unlikely. It's all returning fair. We have Bailey, Priscilla Kelly, and Shayna Baszler. I don't think we have really much to say right now about any of the three.
I have nothing to say about any of them.
And so we'll wrap it up with our remotes, which are Saraya, The Miz, Dragon Lee, AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, Anna Jay, Bozilla, and Miyu Yamashita. Two of those folks, AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura, allegedly, I haven't watched it yet, had what they call a banger last night.
I heard it was
Streets
good.
are saying it.
Yeah, I heard it was good. They're saying what I'm hearing is not quite as good as the Wrestle Kingdom, but better than all their other matches.
Which is saying a lot. Because
Yes.
like that, I mean, number 2 of all time for their matches is pretty good, right?
Yeah. I think so. I think so. All
I
right.
think I have a hot take for you if you want to react to it.
Sure.
Um, we have this hot take for you. AEW should do the CMLL Stardom level of pageantry for all world title matches, where they have the 2 people in the ring and the belt presented and a photo taken.
I agree. I think that I think that there should just be uh more BS involved in a lot of this stuff. If it was up to me, I would have security guards like escorting every single wrestler to the ring, like in every single match, like it's like a boxing
Yeah.
pay-per-view. Just have them like flanked,
I think
like
for a world
everyone.
title. Oh yeah, well, like for a world title match, like
Yeah.
imagine the look of like the lights low for the crowd and just these like bright whites,
Yep.
lined up down the aisle for the people coming out.
Yep. I would do that for like that would be my if I were to run a promotion, I would just have it shot like boxing.
Hmm.
Like that's how I would have commentators talking like boxing. I would just that's all I would do. Like it could still be pro wrestling, but I just want it presented in that way. I want it to be smoky and gritty, but still pro wrestling.
Okay, this one's a bizarre hot take, I think, but um, Dominic Mysterio and Jey Uso are 2 sides of the same meme-reliant wrestling coin. It goes on from there into a lot of other thoughts about that, but
Dominic Mysterio and Jey Uso.
are essentially the same.
I see what he's saying. I would argue that I don't see how they're opposite sides of the coin because they're both very. I would argue they're the same side of the same coin.
I think Dom understands how to work a match.
He has improved.
Uh, Athena and Sari are the greatest fumbles in the last decade in wrestling. Of course, they were both in NXT.
Are we saying fumbles for NXT? Are we saying Athena is a fumble for AEW?
We're talking about NXT fumbling. Athena and Sari are the biggest fumbles by any promotion in the last decade in wrestling.
Sari is pretty bad.
I think Sari is the biggest fumble.
Yeah, Sari is like up there with like Okada and TNA. Like that's
yeah. I have an article that I'm actually writing right now, which I don't know if it's in our Substack drafts. Essentially the point of the article is looking at the best technical wrestler award for Wrestling Observer newsletter, and arguing that Sari should win it this year.
I think that's she's a strong candidate.
Like when you look at it, it's like the last decade plus has been 2 people have won it, right? For 20 years essentially.
Yeah, it's like Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, and that's it. This year, I don't think it's as clear cut that Zach would win it.
Yeah, I mean,
he had a pretty good year, and
yeah,
he's one of my favorite wrestlers this year. But
a lot of people vote almost out of obligation with him just because it's like they don't even think about it.
Yeah,
because it's Zack Sabre Jr.'s award.
And then it's like, who's the rest of your top 3 then at that point? Who's your runner up? It's like I guess Hachizero, Kyle O'Reilly, or we're gonna spice it up. And it's about I think that technical wrestling isn't just about knowing submissions. This might be a hot take. I don't think that technical wrestling is just about submissions. I think technical wrestling is about pacing.
Yes, I agree, and I also think you're right that a lot of people, especially the people who are going to vote on that, they're going to see it as you need to be someone who's twisting someone in a knot.
Yeah, but like if you think back to the '90s and you think what technical wrestling was, and like the '80s, it's like, who's one of the first wrestlers you come to mind? Like name some wrestlers that come to mind if you think classic technical wrestler.
Okay, is Bret Hart too late?
Bret Hart, exactly the name. That was exactly the first name I was going to say, because he is the excellence of execution, right?
Yes.
Is Bret Hart the best submission wrestler in the world in that time? Probably
No,
not.
but he does have like the most famous submission.
He does, and he is a ring general.
Yes.
He could have a good match with anybody. He's the guy that you put up with anybody. And you know who somebody was in the top voting for best technical wrestler the last year?
Who?
Gunther, the ring general.
Yes.
Is,
okay.
Is
And I
Gunther?
think he's a perfect example of
yeah.
a technical wrestler. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's like his thing is he's like a melding between submission and British strong style, like chops and stuff like that. You know, where it's catch as catch can kind of style. Which yeah, you know that's submission based, but it's technical in the way that he's laying out the matches. And so I think that that's my hot take is that Sari should win best technical wrestler.
That's a good take. I would accept this one.
Do you got anything else that you would like to catch up on for this week in WrestleWatch?
No, I think we're good. I think this was a meaty episode that we needed to cover a lot of info.
Yeah, I think that we'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll decide in the meantime if we'll do another vote on our tracker, another reevaluation of where everybody is. I know that there's a name that was referenced in chat right now is Tommaso Ciampa, who we didn't check on this week. So we might have some names. We have the Royal Rumble, so we might have some changes also. So we'll check back in 2 weeks at the very least and have another episode.
I will say this on Ciampa. I do think we have some time before we really have to figure it out on him.
I agree with that. Yeah. So I think that we'll be back in 2 weeks at the very least to, chat about some topic in the world of professional wrestling that you guys have all come to know and love. Maybe we'll have some tracker updates. Who knows?
Yep. All right.
All right.
Until then, I am Doug.
And I'm